What's up, guys? If you're on tonight, pretty much, it's fine. If you're not, that's okay as well. I said, you know what? I wanted to come on so that I could do more of like a live stream reaction to actually, the conversation between Deontay Reviews, Angelina, and Brodie today, because I felt like they were unpacking a lot of things that we probably needed to talk about. And I felt like I needed to have those conversations. Some people say, "Only why wouldn't you join?" I couldn't join because number one, I wasn't even close to a computer at all. But a lot of things were said, and I feel like we could kind of clear a lot of things up, and talk some more. I probably won't look at the comments, guys, so bear with me. I'm really just reacting to the content. If you're here with me, hey, keep liking, keep subscribing. Let's get into this.
So how do you feel about that when they call you Rooster Nation, Woody Woodpecker,
Johnny
like
Bravo.
Johnny? I ain't hear that one. How do you feel like when people? How do you? I guess compartmentalize when you see those comments, or do y'all read the comments? Do y'all stay away from it?
I stay
Yeah.
away because because some people are very nasty, and I don't need to read that. But I do. That's how I found your page, right? That's how I found O'Neill because I love to hear the perspective and just have conversation about what's going on in the skits.
All right, so stop right here. So let me start from this. The Rooster Nation, the whole term of Rooster Nation came because I said, you know what, I wanted to give Shayla's crew a name. In other words, her mom and and Zashri and all of them a name. And I said, well, okay, well, if they're calling her, because they were mentioning that she looked like a rooster inside of the entire skit in itself. This what I mean? And you will have this in theater where people will dislike characters, so they give the character a particular name. The funny thing is, O'Neill enjoys these skits for a particular reason. O'Neill is a theater practitioner himself, so he's a student of the business of theater. And so because of that, I understand theater from different points. So you're gonna have characters you love, you're gonna have characters that you actually hate. And one of those characters that you love to hate is an Angelina, and you love to hate a Shayla. But it is nothing personal against the actual characters, and I hope that it seems as though Angelina realizes that. But I hope that she realizes that in terms of how we look at these things, it's just people being entertained so much so, and they're so dug into these characters that they know can actually hate the character. And if they're doing that, then the truth is you really are doing a fabulous job. And might I say, they really are doing a fabulous job with however it is that you're going about things. The comments that come up, people are going to give comments because that's just kind of that's people's way of interacting with the skits and of expressing the emotion that they express. Now, if they decide that they want to start cursing, then of course there's lines to be drawn there. But in terms of their critique of it, I'm okay with those things because I've been critiqued before while being on a stage. For those who don't know, yes, now that you know, now you know. O'Neill has been an actor before and has been a musician before and has done many things. I'm sure you've seen it within the actual book.
And really have a good perspective and hear from different people what they think, what they see, what they could pick up, what clues they're picking up, you know what I mean? And so with that being the case, that's how I found you and O'Neill and
Mhm.
Vaughn's voices because I'm a fan of the skits. Let me just say that since I've been on, I was like, okay, cool, I'll work here, but I really love this part of the storytelling. So I'm really a fan of the work.
Mm-hmm. Bro, I don't think people say too many bad things about Brodie. Uh,
Yes,
I,
yes, they do.
they do. I
Yeah,
haven't
they
really
do.
seen. So
They,
okay,
they tell me I need to stick up for myself.
Yes, they do.
They do say bad things about Brodie because the Brodie character has changed a lot on a lot of people. And it has changed in respect that the Brodie character says one thing to Anthony, but it does another with Pamela. And so people are watching that. And so that's exactly what they're seeing when they see the Brodie character. What they see is a bit of a hypocritical character. He'll say one thing to Anthony. Hey, Anthony, you need to take care of your family. You need to, not be doing what you're doing with your daughter. You need to go back home with your wife. But then Brodie is not going back home with his wife. Brodie is not doing what he's supposed to do. So that's exactly where they come from when they talk about even a character, for example, like the Brodie character.
Stop being a simp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's Anthony 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
They like, can you put, hey, you need to put your pants on, Brody. Who wear the pants in the house?
I think I was surprised because my daughter came to me and she's like, Mom, people have like they're making all these remixes of you and making you look like this and this and that. And I was like, let me see. And so then I just started putting in Angelina, Country Wayne Angelina reactions. And that's how I found your page. And I thought it was very entertaining because I could tell that you had some spiritual understanding. You wasn't just in here. I just can't stand her because she's stupid, and look at her hair, and look at that. Like you were really getting into the spiritual aspect of, I don't know why she think she's gonna have somebody else's husband because it doesn't work that way.
All right, so let me stop it right here. So while I do understand her that some of the reaction videos go from like a spiritual aspect, and we do try to see exactly if we can find meaning behind the work that Country has. The truth as well though is that this is pretty much also entertainment. And so O'Neill actually understands that these entire skits are really entertainment at the end of the day. People want to watch them, they want to be entertained. They want to feel like they're coming on here and they can interact with an Angelina, and then they can interact with a Brodie, and they can interact with a Shayla, and they can get mad and upset because maybe in their real lives they're not able to do that. So that's what's pretty much going on. So I think that that's exactly what that is. No, somebody just say in the comments that they're doing damage control because the audience is unhappy. Yes, the audience is going to be unhappy with a lot of what's happening, so thank you very much for that comment. But yeah, so they want to be able to watch these content, they want to be able to watch his content with Angelina, and they want to be able to get upset. And so you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to be that character that people, sometimes you're going to be that character that people love to actually hate. Now, O'Neill has been in a couple roles where he was the villain too, and people never really liked the O'Neill character, and them feel like O'Neill character needed to be shot, or he needed to be, beaten, or he needed to be bamboozled, or whatever else it is. But O'Neill didn't really feel any way about it because he understands that this is all acting. And the better, how we look at it in Jamaica from a theatrical perspective is that the more you hate me, the character, the better of a job I'm actually doing. And so that's how we look at the art in itself. We don't really look at it as, oh, this probably is bad, and I think that, I probably should dial it back. In fact, the worse the comments are, the more I'm going to actually make the comment, the character more disgusting, if you ask me. So that's how we look at it.
Right. So then I was really starting to enjoy that. So I started pinning your stuff so I could watch it. And when my phone goes off,
When your
um,
phone go,
I'm there watching.
Brodie, did you have a
I
first time?
yeah. I think first time I saw you, like you shared a video and tagged me, and that's how I found it. Like usually when people tag me on Instagram or whatever, I go on to reshare and see what it is. Um, I'm gonna be honest, I don't be out there checking for it like that, but I do appreciate the commentaries. I appreciate all of that. You know what I mean? The fans are amazing. The
Yes.
commentaries, like what you guys do, man, that just elevates all of us.
All right, so I'm glad that Brody said this because I think I want you guys to understand. You know what I mean? I think I want you guys to understand why O'Neill started reacting to these videos. I think I'm one of the first people to start reacting to the Country Wayne skits. I don't believe anyone else was doing it. I was doing it before you just probably found the channel this year. There was another channel I had previously, and people realized it was actually me. I actually came on these skits and I started to do these commentary because I felt like the black community had many similarities. I felt like in Jamaica there was an Angelina, and in Trinidad there was an Angelina, or in Ghana there was an Angelina, or in wherever else it is, and I felt like these characters are quite similar. So I wanted to see exactly how it is I could actually pull all of this together in this particular storyline, because this guy had this great content, which is Country Wayne. This guy has this great content that people in Jamaica could actually learn from. You know what I mean? He's running this show and it's well. And besides that, I felt like, hey, it's a bunch of black actors that are on YouTube that are doing what they're supposed to do. And I felt like, you know what? Why not promote this? If I'm going to do a YouTube channel, the best thing I'd promote is something black. Why not? You know what I mean? It kind of gives our space something. And I do understand what the stories do as well. The stories give people food to eat because all of these people are actors and actresses on the platform, and they do get paid from this. So I was like, well, hey, if I'm going to comment on something, I'm going to comment on something that works. I also understand the algorithm and realize that the more Country pops up in the algorithm, the more money the channel will make. And so that was my my goal toward all of this, my reason for doing all of this was pretty much that I came on to do reviews because I really wanted the skits to blow up. Just like people would comment on other things. If you notice, like for example, when Shannon Sharp did his show with Cat Williams, the more of the breakdowns you had on YouTube, the further reach it had. And so I wanted that for the skits because I felt like, you know what, hey, if there's anything the black community in the US needed, it was these particular skits. If there's anything that the black community in Jamaica needed, it was skits like these. If you know anything about Jamaica, Jamaica is big on plays. If you go to Jamaica, Jamaica is big on plays. We're big on seeing plays happen and stuff like that. So we're big on that, and we're big on messages coming across in the plays. Now, sometimes they don't give us the messages we want, but sometimes we get it. That's basically it.
When you
Very much
do
so.
that, you know what I mean, and I appreciate it so much. Like it's very interesting and entertaining to me.
Mm.
Likewise.
So here's a question, which I think is a good question, Marcus. Do you believe lately the black men on these skits have been made to seem weak?
No, I hope they answer this. I'm curious to listen to this particular answer because again, you probably believe the same thing I believe with this one, that the black people do seem kind of weak in the skits. But hey, let me go ahead and let them answer it.
Y'all agree with that?
I think. Well, you want to take that first, or you want me to go first? What you want to do, Brody?
Uh, the problem is I don't watch all the skits, so I
Mhm.
don't even know some of the characters.
That's not a
But
problem.
I think the stories that Wayne are is telling is real stories that we as a people have to be able to unpack those stories, and hopefully these are bringing some healing to people and allowing people to see some things that they may see in themselves or others that are around them, to allow them to be able to help people unpack. You know what I mean? So I think that the stories are being told the way they need to be told.
All right, so I want to disagree with Brody on this one a little bit. While I believe that the stories have parts in them that are being told properly, I feel like some of them are not there. It makes it feel as though all black men are weak, and I don't believe that. You know what I mean? Like, and I know what fans are asking for. I think fans are asking for, if you're going to give me 5 weak black men, give me at least one strong black man who is supposed to be the example of what the other 5 weak black men are right now. You know what I mean? Well, to them, in other words, this one strong black man, this is what these 5 guys should look like. And I feel like that's the only little piece of what's going on. Because, all right, as I've said before, one of the things we come to understand from theater from Jamaica with my studies, because again, yes, O'Neill studied theater, and that's why O'Neill loves these skits. One of the studies I did, right, was the time of the Shakespearean time. Whenever the kings or the queens wanted to put anything in culture, they would put it inside of entertainment and give it to you on a platter. That's literally what would happen. They would give this to you on a platter. So that's exactly why I said be very, very careful as to how you pin that and throw that forward. That is exactly why I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that part of the story because it make it seem as though there aren't strong black men out there. I understand there are some simps. I understand that sometimes men simp a lot with different things, but give us at least one or two that are the example of what it should be. And I feel like that's what people are having an issue with. They're not seeing that. They're not seeing that on the platform, and that's the only piece I'd probably speak to the Wayne channel on, and I'd say, you know what, guys, I know what you're doing, and I love what you're doing. Don't worry, O'Neill is still going to be a bigger supporter. As you notice, O'Neill don't stop skits, even when the skits pretty much, even when people say, you know what, oh my God, I'm tired of these skits, I'm tired of watching, O'Neill don't stop. Because O'Neill still believes in the work that Wayne is doing and the work that the actors and actresses are putting in. But I think I want you to understand where the people are coming from, and that's where I think the people are talking about.
And I'm cool with it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I don't know the answer to your question, but that's
Yeah, no. Angelina, what do you think?
You know what? I think because most of the time when we see people, we just see the face that they put on in public, right?
mhm.
And we only know what they tell us or what they allow us to see about themselves. And because of that, what's happening is, and I thought it was very interesting because you were like, oh, they in the fishbowl. And I'm gonna tell you something. I've used that analogy because you see people's lives you see both sides of it. You see Amber, what's going on with her with Anthony. You see
Hmm.
what's going on with him and Shayla. You see all these pieces that normally you don't get to see. You only know one side of it. And so the men, because men are called to be leaders in the household, they're called by God to lead, guide, provide, right? And to do that from a spiritual standpoint, right? And then because of that, when you have a woman who understands that, then she's also going to be able to walk in her calling, because she has that freedom to be who God has called her to be. And because that's out of sync in so many people's lives in real life, they've got to see that Brodie and Angelina, they've been together, but they still haven't fixed the foundational components that keep them from constantly with this back and forth thing, right?
All right. So again, while I like that and the whole idea of, they need to see whatever is happening now in life, I think people are trying to get the opposite effect of that. In other words, they need the opposite of Brodie and Angelina. Because what they get with Amber and Anthony is the same thing as Brodie and Angelina. And while I can understand how the two relate, in other words, how, the way Brodie is and the way Angelina is, what she's actually doing, while I can understand the relation between that, it's also, again, as I've said before, it's how we are presenting that forward to the actual culture. Because if you're going to tell the culture to do something, you have to tell it what it needs to do. If you show it back what it already has seen, then hey, you're really not teaching it anything. It's, for example, I'm going to give you an idea. In other words, it's almost like how we show violence on TV, where we always show shows, black shows, and it's always, you watch probably a Tyler Perry movie or any other movie at all, and what you tend to see is the same thing. The guy grows up and he's black and he lives in a ghetto, and he starts firing guns, and what I mean, and that's really and truly what he is, and he's shooting from here to next week, and that's the story that you get all the time. The guy who lives in the ghetto and sees that story is already seeing that story. So in other words, you need to show him something different. Let me put it this way. O'Neill being a guy from the ghetto, right? O'Neill being a person that came from the ghetto, who came from harsh circumstances. If you probably want to look on any one of the gangsters in the film, O'Neill could have pretty much been that particular person. And I think what has saved O'Neill was because there were some people, some women in O'Neill's lives, right? And one or few men. Then again, see, men, one or two men and some women who took O'Neill out of his environment and showed him something different, because they showed O'Neill something different, and they showed him that there's another side of life, that he could understand that there's another side of life. He now knows how to act upon particular said side of life. So I think that that's exactly what people are saying, and I think that's what they're asking for. But it could be that the Country Wayne series just has to put it on and on and on, because of course that's how they make money. But I feel like they can do it in such a way where it's still creative, but it gives the audience the means of seeing exactly that. Hey, there's a next side to this. I think they would still watch nonetheless and still realize that there is an next side to this. They give us grandpa and grandma, but they barely give us anything in that. This what I mean. In other words, they barely give us that young couple that does different things, and I think that's what people are asking for in these skits, because I find that maybe the Wayne channel doesn't understand the duty that it has to the black community. Maybe it hasn't understood the level that it has risen to. You've risen to a level where you have a community of people that are now looking in, and it's not just America. Now you have Jamaican audiences. You have me speaking from a Jamaican perspective, and you have pretty much people from Trinidad calling in. You have people from Antigua. You have people from Ghana. You have people from wherever it is. You have these different black people who are going through the same things. They want to see exactly what are these examples. That's what I'm talking about.
Go out, cheat, come back, go out. Well, you be getting divorced. Well, we'll see about that, because I'm not about to sign no paperwork. Why? Because we've been here before. Like, why can't you just fix the situation? Why do you have to keep stepping out? Why can't we do something else? And I think that is the part that if we continue with this ride with Wayne, we get to see redemption, and we get to see people come to themselves. And that's the part that people need to hear, that you don't always have to throw in the towel. You can take a breather and take a break, and then get back to embracing the change that we all need. We all need change. We all need to grow up in a myriad of ways. So I think that it's not that they're necessarily simps. Everybody has because we have such a fatherless epidemic. right? There's always something missing there.
All right. So let me go ahead and challenge this. And I think David was on a live the other day and we were challenging this whole idea of fatherhood, right? And we said, yes, are there black men who are fatherless, or if that's what you want to call it, right? Then sure, you could say that. But I don't believe that the fatherless epidemic is, how can I put this now? I think that black men have been doing better and should be shown better versus whatever they're being shown now. In other words, I think you want to put more of that in there than anything else. And I feel like that's exactly what we're seeing. Is too much. I think we're seeing too much of the black man being a simp, and we're seeing too much of the black man not having a spine, and too much of the black man not having a backbone. All right, I'm gonna give you an example. You could say, I remember my mom, right? And I don't want to throw her out, but my mom has given me a lot of stories. My mom could pretty much be a Shayla at one point in time, right? She could be a Shayla, right? But yet still she could be a, and I'm not talking in terms of a bunch of different people. No, I'm talking in terms of she could be a Shayla in terms of how she approaches the whole idea of fatherhood. Okay. And so there were times she made it seem as though my father was a deadbeat dad. And growing up for a period of time, I would think this man is a deadbeat dad. But the truth is, I've been over this man's house, right? This man has 5 children. Well, not 5, him about 6 children. Okay, him have a lot of children. He works as a, what you call it, a correctional officer. So in other words, he make only so much. Now, when my mother was doing all of this, she should have viewed that. It's where I'm coming from. She should have pretty much viewed all of that. No, that's that. He has done the best that he possibly could. Just like what I see Anthony doing now, the best he possibly could, but he still gets the tag of being a deadbeat dad. And the truth is, my father has played the best that he can as a role for me. He has tried the best he possibly could, in terms of, growing me as a kid and trying to do as much discipline as he could. Him give me some timetables, him do him lot of different things. But if you were to ask the modern day woman, my father would be considered a deadbeat father, even though he wasn't. You see where I'm coming from? And so that's why I'm saying that the whole idea of fatherhood, I feel like it is it is overdone and overcooked in the black community. I feel like it is overcooked. And that's exactly why I have issue with some of how the things are being shown, because the father thing is overcooked. If you notice, I get very, very, if you notice, I get very, very passionate about the deadbeat father narrative, because it cuts me to the soul. Because everything that you say Anton is going through, O'Neil has felt it. Even when O'Neil has spent, him still being called the father who does nothing. Nothing at all. You see where I'm coming from. And so when he sees that on a screen, him look at it and him say, this is asinine. How are we showing this? What about the father that is doing whatever it is? How is this not being shown in a different light then? As a black father doing the best that he possibly can with a society that has what it already has in it. And not to mention Black America that already has a bunch of racism and a bunch of classism and a bunch of what you call now systemic things that disproportionately affect a black man's ability to take care of a child. So what do you call taking care of a child? What if I'm spending time but me not have no money? Am I still a deadbeat? And that's why I ask these questions from time to time. This is exactly why I ask these questions from time to time, because that's where I see it. I feel like the fatherless epidemic thing is overcooked, and I feel like it is overexpressed to the black community. And that's the issue I have with that. And that's why I said that, okay, if you're going to give me that then with Anthony, then give me something else. I feel like that's my next thing. Give me something else. Give me the father. Then that is the example of what the black community is supposed to see. That's my issue with that statement.
And that's what that's what I think, because there's such fatherlessness. There's no one guiding them. Then how do they learn what they need to know?
That's good. So to
And,
his,
and I,
go ahead.
let me say this. I know that for entertainment purposes, this has to go on and on and on. And like we don't really know where Wayne going. You know what I mean? He don't give us like heads up. Oh, this was getting ready to happen. We don't know, right? And which keeps it more real for us when we're in it, right?
Yes.
And one of the things I know, Wayne's faith is real strong.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know anything about that, there's gonna be a come to Jesus moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I like this. But I feel like you can have a lot more coming to Jesus moment in the skits for people. Remember, you are giving out information to a mass of people. I don't know if Wayne realized that this was going to blow up to this particular level. Maybe it is that Wayne needs more writers for the skits. Maybe he need more writers. And so if he has more writers, right? If he has more writers, then he could be able to get more, what you call it now, he could be able to get more coming to Jesus moment, as you're calling it. Because people want to see the coming to Jesus moments. They don't want to be watching and feeling as though they're being helpless and punched down to death. And I think that that's probably maybe something the writers will have to adjust to. They'll have to adjust to the mere fact that, okay, while we don't want it to come too quick, we also don't want it to take too long. And I think it's taking a little bit too long on some people. It's taking a little bit too long on some people, and it takes a while. Even when they review the skits, them, it takes a while to be able to look on the same thing over and over again. All you're looking on is the bad. They already are seeing that in society. So you have to find ways and means of showing them good, positive moments. And again, with the fatherless thing, and that's why I say with the whole idea that some people say there is a fatherless epidemic. Again, I understand what y'all are saying. I still don't agree fully that there's a full fatherless epidemic in the black community. I feel like you have more fathers than before. Now, could you say that there is there are still issues, as to what's happening? Yes, there are. But I feel like you have more good that's happening, and I don't see it as much as you're seeing the fact that there are people that's out here fatherless. That's all I'm saying.
You know what I mean? There's going to be a fix it Jesus moment, right?
Help is on the way.
Help is on the way. So if the fans be patient, enjoy the entertainment, learn from the messages that are coming out, because people's lives are broken.
We know people's lives are broken. Say, okay, you're telling us stuff that we already know, and don't worry, Brody, we love you nonetheless. But we're critiquing this thing, and Deontay Reviews, it needs some credit for doing this and for bringing the actors on so they can hear from the fans' perspective. Let me speak for the fans, since as they're not being able to talk to you the proper way, and I'm gonna just give it from whatever it is. They want to watch a skit where maybe if every 3 months you're showing them something enough where it gives them in whatever it is, then sure, that would be fine. But no, you're not giving them enough wins. And so the writers need to write enough wins for them. You need to give them enough wins. You're not giving an Amber enough wins. So what it looks like to people is as though we need to be a Shayla because, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to always get away with it. Or we need to be an Angelina because no matter what you do, you're going to get away with it. Or we need to be like an Anthony because when you're an Anthony, you can get away with anything. That's the deal. That's the idea that I get from what I'm seeing. David say you're not letting us talk. Um, that's what David is saying. You're not letting him talk nonetheless. As I say, guys, I'm doing this one as just a live reaction from this actual thing in itself, just to kind of give you guys an idea as to. I just think I wanted to speak on it because I feel like it was very important that we had the discussion with whatever is going on here.
Right? And eventually they're going to be fixed, but there's one way to fix it, right? And so eventually it's going to come to that. So I'm patient enough to do my job and wait on that. If you think I'm a simp, I'll just be a simp for you right now. You know what I mean? Because there's simps out there, right? There's people out there whose lives are broken, and eventually it will come to Jesus, that altar moment.
All right.
So I'm waiting on that.
I like that. So here's a question I think both of y'all can
Hold
answer.
on, hold on. So again, there are simps out there, but there are also strong men out there, and that's what the audience is saying. They're not seeing the strong men. Where are the actual strong men who are in the skits who stand and mean everything that they say? Because there are those men, right? O'Neill had an opportunity to meet a lot of strong men in his lifetime, regardless of what was happening at home. They still represented certain ways and they stood for certain principles. They weren't all simps. And I think that that's what the audience is saying, that they're getting just pure simps and no strong men. In other words, if I was watching this as a teenager, And so I go into the mind of a teenager and I'm watching this skit for this long. All I'm seeing is the bad character win. That's all I'm seeing. The bad character is winning. As a teen watching this, the bad character always wins. I need to be an Anthony because once you have a lot of money and you have a lot of clout, you can treat women any possible way that you can. I need to be an Anthony because I will always have an Amber take me back. Then again, when you show this to a young girl and Amber, okay, so in other words, she need to be stepped on every single solitary time. I don't quite agree with those. And so that's why I said that maybe the writers will have to shift up the writing game a little bit more. The, I know that there are exactly, there are ebb and flows in the characters, and there should be ebb and flow in the characters, David. I see a message below. There are ebb and flows in the characters, but I think that people are looking for some characters who are stable. And what I think they're not showing is some characters who are pretty much very, very stable. Most of the times they are unstable. Most of the times the men are simps. Most of the times. That's literally the idea. Somebody says, are they really winning? Well, they are if they never ever get any level of checking or any level of accountability. If they never have an instant, in other words, some of the things that are happening on these skits, if I were supposed to do that in real life, I would have already been clocked. Whether it is by the system or by a boss or by someone else, I would have already been clocked.
Shayla's parents. So this one comes from Joshua McCullough. Why people don't hold Shayla accountable? Is it what is it? Because I think Zachary gets it more, especially from Angelina. So why does it seem like it's not even? The playing field is not even. And why does it seem like she doesn't get held accountable a lot?
Well, and I have something to say about that. First of all, what is accountability, right? Accountability is letting a person know that they've done something out of pocket, right? And then from there, you have corrective measures. But we're talking about a woman who's in her 30s. So what can mama make her do or not do, right? Mom and dad stepped in at a time when we thought it was already some child. We
All right. So while I like this, so she's saying what can mom and dad do, at whatever else it is. While I like that saying, in other words, then maybe what Angelina is saying at this time is that, well, the truth is parenting has actually changed. Because what parenting was before is that you were held accountable. And if you did go outside and you had this baby, sure, we would assist you some way, somehow, but we would hold you accountable and allow you to be responsible for that. And I think that that's what the skit is missing. Whereas Shayla is saved every single solitary time. Right? And we see exactly what happens when a person is saved every time. When them saved every time, what happens? They never really and truly get anywhere. They don't really learn because no one is really and truly putting them in the place where they're supposed to be. That's what I think that people is getting from that. That's what I feel like people is getting from that. That's what I get from that when I watch the entire character. When I watch a Shayla character, I feel like the character is never going to get corrected. Even I sometimes lose some amount of faith into what I'm seeing because I'm like, there is no way this is thing there to some place where people say it's unrealistic. And you are corrected by saying, hey, this feels kind of unrealistic. No, sometimes it's theater unrealistic, sometimes it is. But I feel like a message as important as this has to be told with more truths to it, but with the funniness nonetheless, if that makes sense to you. Which is why I said that I think it's something the writers need to do. I think you want to tell the truth a little more. In other words, what would really and truly happen with your fun and your creativity. That's what I believe with that.
didn't know anything about what was going on. We kind of came to Atlanta and was blindsided with the information. So, part of that is you can have adult children, but you can't make them do things, right? You've already raised them. You can't make them. Does Angelina get crazy, or interesting, one-sided, let's drive towards the goal, which is keeping Anthony because that's what you said you wanted, right? And I think she sees a lot of that. Angelina probably has been that way with Brodie. She's gonna make that marriage work because you and I have a covenant, and you gonna stay here. Where's your ring at? Put that ring back on. You better stop
Brodie ain't
playing
got
with
the ring on right now.
well, that's what he thinks. But I'm saying, like, I think so we can see that Angelina's mindset is kind of like old Puerto Rico, like my old like my stepmother. She was like, she would stay with my dad through thick and thin and a whole lot of thin until there was nothing. And in my mind, I'd have been left in real life. Like I'd have been like deuces because I'm not going down with the ship if you don't want to grow up. But Shayla, on the other side of that, is if she's not, she's an adult. What can you make them do? You can. Angelina gives us some wonky stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because she's giving her information based out of her own hurt, her own, database of how she's lived her life, what she learned from her mother, who in essence is Shayla, because Shayla's living, Angelina's mother's life because that's how Angelina came about.
All right, so I like that, and I'm glad that she actually stepped in and mentioned that. Sure. So in other words, you are playing the character correct then, Angelina, because you're talking about the character as having this particular traumatic experience, and we tend to repeat things that we saw from before. So that's fine. I understand that the Angelina character is doing what it's supposed to do, because that's generally what you do until someone gives you some level of correction, and that's why I ask, are you sure about the accountability thing? Because accountability wise, sure. If we were to talk about accountability with Shayla, then yes, we are supposed to hold Shayla accountable. But if you're talking in the guise of Angelina, then yes, we understand why Angelina wouldn't hold Shayla accountable, or doesn't know how to hold Shayla accountable, because she's not at that place yet. She's not at that particular place where she's able to properly tell Shayla exactly why this may be incorrect at this point, or why that may be incorrect. She might not be at that particular place. And so she is playing the character there properly. That's fine. I agree with that. As a matter of fact, the way how she articulated that, I totally agree with that part. Now, the accountability piece, I'm like, well, no, regardless of how big she is, you're supposed to still hold her accountable, because I feel like, that's what you would do. But hey, again, maybe it's just parenting. Maybe it's parenting styles. Maybe what the Country channel is also saying is, you know what? There are different levels of parenting, and there are different ratios of accountability. And accountability is going to go on a spectrum. If this is what you're saying, then fine. I guess I can take that. If you're saying accountability is being done on a spectrum, so in other words, there are no solid points to it. It's very analog, and it's not very digital, just one, two, three, four. No, you have pieces in the middle. If that's what you want to tell me, then that works. Then you can say, okay, then the Angelina character is what we are interpreting it to be. But when we look at the Shayla character, again, we don't see we don't see exactly where the Shayla character gets the correction. And what we're saying is, in the real world, the Shayla character is going to get a correction. Unless Angelina and Brodie is so wealthy. And even when they're wealthy, I get a correction as well. Unless they are so wealthy that they are above reproach. And that's not what we're seeing with this. Some of the things that they've already done, there's no way, shape, or form that they wouldn't be corrected. And again, as I've said before, having the black community think that you can do what a Shayla does, like I said before, people may not know it, but it is true, right? Studies have shown you, and I show you where theater comes from. Theater in the 15th century was used to educate the populace. If you look on how Trump come about, if you look on what is happening now with Trump, all of this has been fed to you through media. Whether you like it or not, all of what Trump has been doing has been fed through you to media. So in other words, it shows how how important media actually is. So the onus is on the writers to ensure that they try to find ways and means of expressing this, so that the black community get the piece them supposed to get. Unless they're telling us they're going to be ending the story at some point in time, which I don't want them to do, because we like to be on it. But not only that, I mean, we also want them just to continuously be showing out to the black community. So that's why I don't really want them just finish. That's why I don't want them just finish it.
So nothing from nothing is nothing. Two half of nothings make a whole nothing. So I think there's a whole lot of um, therapy and rethinking how we deal with things. But Angelina tells Shayla what the deal is. Girl, get yourself, get a career, get your popping, get in the gym. Like she's been telling her these things, find out what's going on with Anthony. But what can Angelina make her do? Nothing. Nothing. And you can't beat the girl down. Oh, you stupid, you this and that, because I'm gonna tell you what that's gonna do. It's gonna run her away. and mama doesn't want to do that either. So
Which makes sense, and I understand that that mama doesn't want to run her away, but I think what people are asking again, then okay, so then mama just puts up with the slackness, and I think that that's what people is getting from it, because that's already happening. If you look at society right now, what's actually happening is that people commit a lot of egregious acts, and them do a lot of slackness, and there and it's being walked over. You understand where I'm coming from? People actually rewarding people for bad behavior. And I think that's exactly what people is asking about when they show these particular skits. Look, the black community has so much to learn, because we have been disenfranchised by media. We've been disenfranchised by systemic things that occur in society. And so our stories have to come a little bit different than stories that go to the white community or that goes to the Asian community, because they are already bred with a lot of, what you call it, good pieces to it. Plus, them already have some amount of money anyway. So, in other words, them already have a starting money to some extent, right? If you look on the median household income, they already have a start, right? But as far as the black community is concerned, we know what the issues are. We know exactly what's going on. And that's why I'm saying I want them to show more of that. Okay, one of the things I admire about the country and skits is how they start to show money. Them show more money to the people in the country and skits, to get people's minds more inoculated to money and to understanding how things cost, which is very, very great. It's a great concept and a great way of teaching people, hey, you have this happening and you have that happening and whatever else it may be. They also show you when you're too soft what happens as well too, which is cool. But some people don't learn that way. Some people don't learn the way of seeing the negative thing and say, oh, I don't want this, I want to go the positive way. Some people also want to learn the fairy tale way. And that's why I said they need to put some characters who are very, very solid in it as well. Because some people are fairy tale learners. Some people love a good sleeping beauty story. Them love a good, what you call it? Dorothy, Wizard of Oz story, where she go home and in Kansas and have her heels and do what people want to see that as well. They want to feel like them have hope in a certain things.
it's kind of, yeah, that part.
And they my daughters. I love them regardless.
Here
Hey,
you go.
they really can't do no wrong in my eyes. You know what I mean?
Oh my
It's
goodness.
always the other person's fault.
Okay,
Yes.
so here's the other piece of that, like a follow up. So we talked about Shayla being held accountable. There's frustration in skit land with Shayla. It seems like she's winning all the time, right? And many have even put comments under my review where they feel like Shayla is winning all the time and Amber is
Mhm.
taking a bunch of L's. Do you all see it that way, or is there something that we as viewers are missing? Why it seems as if the side chick is winning, the side chick is getting the sister wife treatment.
You want me to answer that one first,
Mm-hmm.
Brody, or you want to
Mm-hmm.
go first?
Yeah, because I don't really pay
Oh,
attention to it.
the viewers are getting to see the everything it as a fishbowl, right? So inside that fishbowl, right, of Amber, Anthony, Coca, Angelina, Kai, Brodie, Pam, Zachary, you get to see all of that from every angle, right? Which most of the time, when do you see that? You don't see that. So Shayla is having to adjust in her own way, which is, you know, she's winning. I don't see how, because she's still having to come to terms with, I'm going to have to change everything about me. I now have to start thinking about getting serious about my career. I have to pull myself out of this funk. I've got to begin to be more responsible in everything that I do, because I'm not going to be able to lean on Anthony for the money. I've got to do what I'm supposed to do. And I think there's so many women in this world and that have had that same situation, whether they were with somebody and they passed away or they left, whatever the situation. Like, we have to grow into that. Amber is learning on her side that you don't ever bring your best friend in the house and have her in there with scantily clad with her cleavage and all that out and tinkering around and leaving her with your husband. Your best friend is your husband.
All right. So just stop right there because there's a whole lot for us to get into. It does seem like Shayla is winning. I want to go contrary to this point that Angelina was making. I'm not just disagreeing for disagreeing sake, but it does seem as though Shayla is winning. Okay, and people would say, yeah, but O'Neill, she still lives alone by herself, and da 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 da. And we could look at the spiritual aspect of it, but then the next truth is that she just did a party for $15,000. She just allowed this man to spend $15,000. Now, whether you like it or not, I mean, some way, somehow, she has forced him in a corner where he has had to spend that particular money. She still is in an apartment that this man pays for. She still is being kept and taken care of, and all of these things are happening. When a little girl watches this skit and sees that, then the truth is, why should I do anything at all? No wonder women who, for example, it's like now where you have women who are going on dates, right? Just so they can eat a meal. If I know I can just go on dates and eat a meal, which is what women have been doing for a period of time, and so it started to happen more and more and more ago, right? If I realize I can go on these dates just to have a meal, then yeah, why would I change? What's the need for me changing? And again, I'm not saying that there aren't parts that Shayla is not showing weakness in certain little pieces, but yes, a little girl watching this skit who is going to have a very simple mind, who has a very simple mind, is seeing the girl nonetheless have the child and is able to do what she wants. And maybe some of this is slightly real. Maybe some of it is slightly real because, again, as I pinpointed to my situation, right? And I'm going to put myself in it and get personal. So that way there you kind of get where I'm coming from. I've had the notion of seeing a baby mother one just the same for a period of time. No, sure, I've gotten some amount of control now to the situation, but I've gotten to see how she has won because I guess the system has allowed her to win. In other words, even though I don't think she probably is the best or the most solid person for that particular child, but some way somehow the skit portrays that. David put in the chat, and David said the skits are not for kids. No, they're not, David. But the truth is, the YouTube platform gives out to everybody. And so the truth is, the black community is actually watching this. And so what you're going to have is you're going to have an 18-year-old watching this, David, and them getting a lot of thought processes from this. That's why I say, you have to tell it a certain way so that way, everybody gets taken care of. That's what I'm saying. It may not be a skit for kids, but it's on YouTube, and as long as it's on YouTube, it is accessible to the mass. And once it's accessible to the mass, then the mass is consuming this. And if the mass are consuming it, I must find ways and means of putting certain things in it. But again, I'm just giving you exactly from a theater perspective and from a perspective of saying this is more than just a skit at this point. It's more than just a skit. This that Country has started, and this is why I commented on these skits for so long. He has started something that is a bit of a change. It's just that it really is an underground skit right now. It's almost like an underground because it's not really rich. I guess you wouldn't call it mainstream because it's not on Netflix or any of the other huge platforms. But the truth is, this underground skit has many impact for other people to see. You may not know you're getting these things, but you are. You may not know you're being marketed to, but you are. You may not know you're learning something from a Shayla and a Anthony, but you are. You just are. You understand? And that's just the idea of it. That's why I'm saying they may need to challenge the writing a little bit more so people get more wins. There aren't enough wins. That's the point I'm making.
And if he's not your, if your best friend is not your husband, then y'all, what are y'all doing? And then Anthony, what are you doing with Piari talking about she's your best friend? How is that the case when Amber is supposed to be your best friend? Period. Bottom line. So at the end of the day, we're looking at people's lives evolving, and of course there's going to be this. We saw Amber go from being super glamorous to going to a time where she was super in the dumps, where she was jacking Angelina up by the collar. When Angelina went over to her, hey, there's winners and losers, baby. And apparently you lost. And now we're seeing where the pendulum is coming back the other way, because that's just how life is. These skits, because they're not shot like a movie where something happens and 2 hours later the case is solved and everybody's back on where they need to go, this is ongoing. So being patient and just enjoying what you get each day, that's a lot of work. I mean, you're talking about Wayne, I think, drops 38 pieces of content a day, guaranteed by the numbers. He is the number one content creator on the planet.
And we love that. But again, yes, we're getting them every day, and that I think is why people are like this, because they're getting these skits every single solitary day, right? They're getting these every day. Okay? And the deal is they just, yes, the characters do evolve over time, and I do accept that the characters have to evolve, and I understand that characters have to go through certain rungs and certain parts. But again, they've been seeing this for a year. In other words, they've been seeing a year of whatever it is that you're showing them. Because the Amber character hasn't really, she has come up, but she still hasn't come up. Does that make sense? The Amber character has come up, but she hasn't come up. Even though you're saying the pendulum has swung, for example, we haven't seen the Amber character fully learning. What we see from the Amber character is sort of being the same way with just minor tweaks. If I were to make an honest comment on the Amber character, if I were to discuss on the Amber character, I feel like we just see minor tweaks to the Amber character. In other words, she's still the same naive Amber to me, because I still haven't seen enough major changes. And again, maybe if they had given me, this is me, and maybe I'm being hard on the writers, maybe the writers had given me a full week, or maybe let's see, geez, a week and a half of Amber being extremely strong, and people seeing that, and them seeing her really getting pretty, whatever it's, and she going up, going up, going up, going up to a crescendo, then they would have been okay. But I think what people are getting are plateaus. What they're getting is not a big crescendo, but them go. Amber climbs a hill, and when she climb it, as she go to here, she plateau, and then she gone back down again. That's what they're seeing. They're really not seeing a full market swing where, and David, you're a trader, so you understand this. They're not seeing a full height in the market and then going down in with the stock, way down, and then the stock comes way back up and then the stock goes back down. We're not seeing that. Now, if you want to tell me that we're seeing a bunch of corrections, all right, I guess I'll accept that. All I'm saying is that people who watch the skits, they're watching daily and they have premonitions about the skits. And they have ways that they think about these skits, because these skits apply to them real life. And so you must find a way to give them the medicine without making it take so long to give them the medicine. That's what I think I'm saying.
If you've seen his page the other day, he dropped something that said in the last 28 days, 757 million views. There's no other place on the internet that is getting those many views, hands down. And he does it because he loves his followers. He loves them. He wants to give them something that's great. You don't have to pay. You show up on Facebook and it's free. You know what I mean? So I think being patient with this new type of media is important, because you're being walked through it day by day. Things can't speed up because that's not how real life works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How do
All right, hold on. So, okay, number one, let's give some kudos. Cause we're at a point in this live stream where there are some kudos. I can say kudos to Wayne for doing the numbers that he's actually doing. That's number one. Let me give kudos to him for that. Let me give kudos to all of the actors and actresses in the actual skits. We the fans love you. So whenever fans get upset and fans say what they want to say, they're just saying those things out of how them feel. So I hope that the actors and actresses, because you're going to see this, Angelina and the cast, when you see this, don't feel any way at all that the fans are giving their opinions these ways. That's just how fans are. They're supposed to do that. Like I said before, I've acted in a couple skits or two. Well, not skits. I mean, a couple plays or two back in Jamaica where I probably was a hated character. You understand? And people never liked me. And them say a whole heap of things and they would shout things from the mountaintop, even unkind things, right? But we always understood that we're just actors and actresses. And that's who exactly we are. And we just understand that the more you believe the character, the better of a job I'm actually doing. So I hope that first and foremost, Angelina understands that. The more people hate you because you're supposed to be hated, the better of a job you're doing. The more people hate Shayla, the better she's doing as a job. The more sometimes they hate Anthony, the better Anthony is doing at his job. I hope that they will understand that. So I'm glad that the platform swings this in. Now, Angelina touched on a point. Now, it could be that Wayne is trying to change media. I think that's what she's saying. Maybe Wayne is trying to see exactly if he can pioneer a change in the YouTube platform and how people watch. If that's what they're saying they're trying to do, then I think I would have to understand that. I do understand that. If that's what you're trying to do, if you're trying to pioneer something new, and you say, you know what, break I'm going to try to break through on the market with a different style of content, then hey, I totally understand it. If you know Oneil again, Oneil is just an advocate for the Wayne series. And again, I've been doing this long. As I said before, I probably one of the first person start react to these skits. I react to the skits them because the skits them have things in it that applied to a Jamaica. Me as a Jamaican could identify with a black American. That makes it whatever. And it wasn't because of skin color. It wasn't because of skin color. Normally you'd say, well, hey, you're black and I'm black, so you know what I mean, I can understand. No, the issues were so instrumental that they applied to me as well. I feel like, and hear me out, David, I see your comments. Don't worry, I see the comments, but as I said before, I'm live reacting to this one, so I'm trying to think of my thoughts. I see your comments. What people are saying is that they want to see more wins and others more stable characters who aren't flashing all through the pond. That's what they're saying. Now, can we say that a Buddhist monk don't have off days? Of course, a Buddhist monk have off days, but most times he's stable. What about, I don't know, a priest or whoever else it is? Let's say you want to get somebody holier than thou. Can we say them don't have, off days? You know, sure, them have off days, but them stable for the most part. And that's what I'm saying. Somebody said only contradicts yourself. Are they doing it for the views or the content? They're doing a lot of this for the content. Them do it a lot for the content, the person who put that inside of the chat. Because again, views equal to numbers, numbers equal to getting the actors paid and actresses paid. And they want to be paid. I do understand some of the times, and that's why I still am going to always comment on this, because the truth is that's what them get paid. The more it blasts out in the YouTube world, is the more people come to the channel and watch, and the more people watch is the more paid that they get. You understand? That's the more pay them get in every single thing else. So that's exactly why you're seeing that way. You know what I mean? That's just it.
You think your character sees Amber? Because I see a lot of similarities in some of the things they've gone through or going through. Is it the fact that Angelina, the character, hates Amber so much because when she looks at Amber, she sees herself? Like, what's going on in Angelina's head with that?
As an actor, as I see it, I believe Angelina is angry with herself because she stayed longer than she should have, even with Brodie. And she sees Amber going right down that same train. Oh, I'm gonna forgive. Oh, I'm gonna forgive, and oh, we gonna work it out, and we gonna accept the baby. And Angelina has been accepting Brodie over and over, and she was the one who was praying. Because notice that the parallels are there, right? The men don't lead with the word. The women are both reading their word and active in their prayer life. Prayer doesn't make someone perfect. It helps you to get through and grow through your life's lessons. So I think it's not that Angelina hates Amber. I think she hates the naivete in Amber that Angelina had been living with for such a long time, and even to this day, still is like we staying together. Ugh, even though you out here playing.
All right, so I think Angelina has covered the Amber character like we have seen the Amber character. That's what frustrates me as well with the Amber character. So I think she has this one spot on. She has our feelings. She's sharing the feelings of the audience. Yes, the audience hates the naivete of Amber. The audience doesn't like the fact that Amber has gone through one particular thing but hasn't yet learned. And don't worry now, understand that love can make you do a lot of this. I see David says, the Cosby show is back streaming. I understand, David. It's fine. I know I say what I say some of the times, and I know where I'm going with it. Because this is just more than this skit to me is more than just a skit. There are so many messages running through it, and it is so easy to teach people things that's why I said what I've said. That's what I said, what I've said. You understand? Somebody said Trump has nothing to do with his kids. We're just giving an analogy, guys. That's the idea of people getting repercussions of their actions. That's exactly what we meant when we say, hey, Trump gets no repercussions at all. You've seen what's happening inside of America. I don't have to kind of pinpoint it to you. You've seen how things work. Doesn't matter how much things might happen, then the justice system does what it does. And if it were a black man, it would be something different. That's the point that I'm making with that. But back to what we're saying. We hate the naivete. We hate the naivete of the Amber character. We don't like the naivety of the Amber character, but again, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the Amber character is just so much in love, which that could be a thing. It could be a thing that the Amber character is so much in love because sometimes people get so much in love that they look past the things they're supposed to go at, which is kind of something, some of the things that we discuss on this channel.
I mean, like, so it's hard for her to watch herself as a mirror, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Tia Williams says, why do the Brodies act like Amber broke up Shayla and Andy's marriage as if they were married? That's a good question. Cause when I look at the skit, they be acting like Shayla and Andy was married and Amber came in and disrupted their life. Like, what's that about?
Well, um, you know, let's just say gang gang. You know what I'm saying? I'm Shayla's mama, gang gang. I'm about to ride with my daughter. She said she with him. That's what we doing. And and I don't have any better explanation than that, really.
And again, I mean, I think I understand that, and I think I understood that from the Brodies. Look, I wanted to come on and I wanted to do this live broadcast stream where I'm just really just talking freely without trying to be cooped up inside of 5 minutes. And I wanted to respond because I felt like maybe Angelina and Brodie didn't understand where the audience is coming from when they watch these skits. Because they are looking to these skits as, believe it or not, us, the audience, are looking to these skits at really and truly of getting examples as to how to go about things with it. Maybe we don't really realize that, but we are. You know what I mean? We are. Because you really do. And it's like I've said before, the arts is like that. People don't realize it's like that, but it is. When people say, music, I mean, like some people say, well, the music has nothing to do with violence. It does. Because a tune can play in your head. That's exactly why back in the days of, say, for example, like, Africans, them would chant a lot of tunes because and use it to go to war because that would fuel them. That would help them to go the way they're supposed to go. That may be why, as I showed y'all before, how Jamaica get into Gallus culture. Gallus culture meaning a ladies man culture. We get into ladies man culture because you're taught to be a ladies man. You're taught to have a lot of women. So of course, you don't realize that you're being taught that. But you are being taught that. And so when you parallel those two, the actual country and skits. I'm just saying that you're giving this out to the audience, and I feel like what the audience is saying that they want to see at least something big happening to Shayla, so them can say, and breathe a sigh of relief. There is a God. Okay, come again. Let me let you understand. I'm try to say to you. That's what I'm saying. What's happening to Shayla so far are just plateaus. They're very small and minute, and they're not enough to give the audience the satisfaction that the audience is looking for. That's my only thing of that. Them not getting the satisfaction that they are looking for with all of this. That is where the audience is. That's where the audience is feeling when them see certain things. But it was a good conversation between, between Brodie and Angelina and Deontay Reviews. And Deontay Reviews has been doing some great work. This is actually great work, that he's doing all of this. Jesus is popping. But sure, we want to shout out Jesus is popping. Thank you very much, the person who put that in there. We want Jesus to pop in one of the various things. Then we want to see him pop. you know but I thank you guys very much for even tuning in, because when I do this, I do it because, of course, I want to entertain. I want the show to be very entertaining, because I see it as being entertaining. When we call Angelina Rooster Nation, we don't mean nothing. We're talking about Angelina the character, not Angelina the person. And I've even separated that from before. When Shayla had issues with whatever legal system they're talking about, I even came on this channel and I said, I hope the Shayla the character is okay. Right? Even though we talk about the Shayla the person is okay. So I hope they're not reading that when the audience gets upset. I want y'all to read this. I hope them to read that when the audience get upset, the audience is getting upset at them, the person. The audience is getting upset at them, the character. But hey, wow, how long has this gone on? An hour? I didn't even know. Anyways, guys, continue to like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you all very much for logging on with me tonight. I didn't even know you was gonna log on. I just kind of made this so you guys could have, come on and view it tomorrow morning. But hey, I guess you're on tonight. Thank you very much for being on, and you have a wonderful night. Bless up.